Live from the Short Track News office in Blue Island, Illinois, you're listening to the Short Track News Radio Network with your host, Steve Bechtel. This is the home of the Raceway Park history, Midwest Short Track memories, and Grundy County Speedway podcasts. Strap yourself in and get those belts tight, because for the next hour, we're talking racing.
Well, race fans, you are not dreaming or seeing things. We are back here on Short Track News Radio. Steve Bechtel, your host. And after, I don't even know how long it's been. We've had a couple of these hiatuses between COVID and then just being busy with everything racing-wise. But once again, we always try to stay true to this. We want to do as many of these episodes as we can. Sometimes time doesn't work out. Sometimes getting guests and co-hosts and all that doesn't work out. But we're going to do the old college try and try to start this up again. You heard in the intro, we plan on doing some Raceway Park history stuff, some Midwest memories, which kind of could be basically a hodgepodge of anything, whether it be Grundy, some closed tracks like Illiana in Cherville, Indiana, Rockford Speedway. Maybe we talk some old Arco stuff, ASA, just whatever we want to talk about. And obviously, if you know me, the announcer and the promoter out at Grundy County Speedway, going to be talking a lot of Grundy County Speedway. But I guess we could add another add-on to this, and we're still working on it. Still, what are we going to call it? What are we going to do? But maybe just like a talking racing podcast may, turn out to be what the main thing is here. And real quick, I want to bring in our new co-host, a buddy of mine that we've been getting closer and closer over the last couple of years. He's involved in the racing industry, and he got to talking with me, and we kept going back and forth and said, maybe we need to bring this thing back and have some fun with it, especially in the off season when we can both kind of decompress. So again, without further ado, I'd like to bring in the new co-host of our show, Tim Zee. Tim, thanks for being here, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for thinking of me on this. It's going to be a little bit of racing therapy for both of us. And like you, I love to talk racing 24/7. So I'm interested to see where this leads, what we end up talking about. It could be racing, it could be cooking tips. I'm in for anything.
Yeah, we always obviously try to do it during the season. Man, this started over 10 years ago. A little bit more ambitious back then. Had some good people with me that would help over the years and kind of give results to. We did Grundy, we did Illiana, we did Rockford, we did Kankakee. Sadly, a couple of those tracks are no longer with us. Some of the people that helped me out, good people, but sometimes life gets in the way. I get it with family and just, different job stuff going on. And it, like I said, it gets hard to kind of commit to something like this, especially during the racing season. And I thought, maybe in the off season, we could have some fun with it. I know, I want to do some, some history type, episodes. Anybody that knows me knows I, grew up at Raceway Park in Blue Island. Tony Baranek, a longtime sports writer for the Sun Standard, the Daily Southtown, the Tribune. Been given Chicagoland area coverage in the stock car racing game for 40 plus years. He did a couple of episodes with me. When we brought the show back before, we've been talking about trying to do some more of the history type episodes, but again, there's just so much to talk about, whether it be NASCAR, whether it be local racing, the national short track scene out there. There's just like so much, kind of good and cool stuff going on, and looking forward to doing it. And like I said, Tim, we're kind of one and the same. We both, grew up fans. Help people, crew chiefed on cars in the past, and help people that way. We both drove cars over the years. I kind of went into, working at racetracks, and, I worked at Illiana for a long time. I, been at Grundy since 2011. Again, the announcer out there, the promoter for the last 3-4 years, having fun for the most part doing it. You pretty much the same deal. You kind of got onto the promotion end of things, purchased the Mid Racing Series, and have done phenomenal stuff with that. And yeah, give everybody a little bit of a history about yourself. I know they've listened to me off and on through the years on the show, but for somebody that doesn't know who Tim is, who are you and where'd you kind of grow up and what, you did in the racing scene and stuff like that?
So we as a family started off probably when I was a toddler. We were actually doing truck pulls. So my first introduction to Grundy was running an ITPA event back in the maybe mid '80s. So we got out of truck pulling late '80s, very early '90s, and I grew up in Gardner. I graduated from Gardner, South Wilmington, so I'm familiar with the area too. And after I started getting into high school, it was so convenient, so close. I started watching out at Grundy. Became addicted instantly. It, as any race fan knows, or driver or crew member, it's in the blood. So mid '90s, I started crewing for a guy in the Mid-Am division, Mark Alsobrook. He was friends with Doug Timber and Chris Horn and a lot of those guys, and won a couple features with him. And late '90s, I did some crewing for Kevin Anderson, who is probably one of my longest friends, and also now my tech guy. So racing friendships last a long time. After that, I got into some road racing and did some BMX, some motocross, and found my way back to Circle Track probably about 2014, 2015. Wanted to give Mid-Am a trial run as a driver, and probably the worst race car driver on earth. Josh Nelms, one of my regulars in the series, and Ronnie Vandermeer loved to torment me about it, but they let me dust myself off once or twice a year. Kind of like what they do at Christmas with Mariah Carey. They start to thaw her out and let her sing once a year, while I get to get in the car once or twice a year. So I thoroughly enjoy racing as a driver still. On the promotional side, it's sometimes hard because you still have that urge, you still have that drive. Whether you're a good driver, or intermediate, or like me, a terrible driver, you still have that urge. So it's been a ton of fun. It's been a wild ride, and still continuing on with owning the Mid-Am series going into next year as well.
What I guess attracted you to purchasing the series? I mean, obviously you were around it, at the Grundy County Speedway, a little bit of traveling, on the side, maybe helping some people. What led to you, being a fan, a crew member, a part-time driver, to jumping in and actually purchasing the series?
It's still the same thing that drives me to this day, and I think it's becoming more apparent. That drive for me was the value of the division, the value of the series, the value of the car. I don't think there's too many traveling series out there that have a good-looking car like this for the money that we have tied up into it. And don't get me wrong, any race car is an expensive proposition. But you look at some of the super lates and see what those guys are spending yearly, and I just felt like this was a great place to have a composite or fiberglass body car that looks right, sounds right. It's a Mustang, it's a Camaro, and they really are good-looking cars. They make a ton of power. They're challenging to drive. We make upwards of 500 horsepower on these cars on a 4-barrel and an 8-inch tire, and on brakes that are probably too small for it. So I've always been attracted to the uniqueness, and again, I think the value prop on the series is fantastic.
Now, Mid-Am Racing Series been around for a little over 30 years. The last, maybe 4 or 5 years before you purchased a series kind of seemed like things were in a little bit of a lull. Some people might even say a little bit on life support, to where it looked like it might go away. And it was such a popular division. I remember, Ileana Speedway, had those cars weekly. Grundy County Speedway had them weekly, Slinger, Lake Geneva. And I think as some of those tracks went away, like Lake Geneva and Ileana Speedway, it just seemed like, less cars were out there. Guys had less options. Their home track closed down. They sold the cars. And, I think that led a little bit to the demise of the series a bit. You kind of came in and jump-started it. It wasn't easy by no means. I remember talking to you in those early days and wondering, what did I take on here? But, it's been a challenge. It's been fun. But, from starting to now, ups and downs as with anything in the racing industry. But, what do you take out of the last, few years of you, owning the series, where you kind of brought it up from and where you see it going in the future?
The neatest thing about this is the people that have been involved to help me get this going. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Chuck Uris. He came on early and helped us with some funding. And make no mistake about it, him and I have our differences now, but the series wouldn't be what it is without his help. And same with the entire Vandermeer family. Ron Vandermeer Jr. Was always good to bounce ideas off of, and same with Pops and all of those guys. And I have a group called my Original Six. I'm not sure if a lot of people remember this, but I talked to a lot of people for that first Spring Classic out at Rockford and thought that I had about 25, 26 cars lined up, and we had 7. We wrecked one in qualifying and shucked a drive shaft on another car in the heat race, and I was under cars just trying to keep this thing going. And Josh Nelms and Ron Vandermeer Jr. proceeded to go out there with a 7-car field and do a side-by-side battle for probably the better part of 15 or 20 laps, and it ended up being a great race. And eternally grateful to those original 6 or 7 guys that showed up because they believed in me enough to come. So that was right out of the gate was one of my first trials of my, I don't want to say my patience, but it's a humbling moment when you think something's going to go one way and it goes completely south almost immediately. But after that, we had the race at Grundy, and I'm pretty sure we had 26 cars for that event. So it gave me a little bit of breathing room. And my favorite thing to say to people is there's no owner's manual for this. So look, I'm just a fat guy that loves race cars. I'm no expert on any of this. A lot of this is trial by fire. I have my good days and I have my not great days. I'm like everybody else. The only way to make a small fortune in racing is to start off with a large fortune. I work 2 jobs and, just try to keep this thing going the best that I can. It's right, wrong, or indifferent. The racing community is all in this together to keep my series, to keep ASA, to keep all the local tracks open. So it's kind of the perspective that I have on it at this point is just doing the best I can to flush out the negative and not contribute to that negative and help everybody in meaningful ways to keep all of this going. I guess I'd be interested to hear what your take on all this is. You've been in this a lot longer than I have. I see some downward trends with car count, with economy and other things, but what's your take on all of this the past 3 to 5 years?
Well, COVID was definitely, a backbreaker for, not just the racing industry, but just a lot of, just everybody. And I remember that was like the year that I came in and, got bumped up to co-promoter and was really, going to get a shot to do some stuff. I felt we had a pretty good team in place. And then to be shut down like that was, talk about a punch to the gut. And, I didn't realize it at the time, but it's like when we finally did get a chance to race, I think our I think we opened like the last week of June, and then it ended up, raining out while we were at the track. So our first week of racing was actually 4th of July weekend. You have a good crowd, and you're wondering, is that, just because of the holiday weekend, everybody's looking for racing. And I kind of just looked that whole year, and we had some really, really good crowds. And, we kind of chalked that up to, there's, I didn't want to, hurt myself, patting myself on the back, thinking we've done such a great job. I mean, we were realistic in knowing that, people, they're not going to the movies. They're not going here. They're not going there. They can't go to these places because, a lot of stuff wasn't open. We were an open air facility, so we could have people when a lot of other stuff wasn't open. And, we've just kept trying to build. Every year we wanted to try to, put back into the racetrack. I think in the last 4 or 5 years, we've been kind of the only group that, has kind of, every year it's, 1 year we got new lights, in the track and in the pits, and it was just, a huge upgrade. And then, I think the next year we paved part of the track, the corners, and did some improvements. It's amazing what a few gallons of paint will do, and just cleaning up and paving the midway and doing stuff like that. Looking at radio advertising, you're always trying to look at different things to try to bring some people in. Again, the improvements don't stop. A couple of years ago, we did the bathrooms, all new, flooring and toilets and sinks and everything. And I always remember something that Joe DeBello told me, and Joe is the general manager at Grundy County Speedway. And he said he went to one of those promoter workshops down in Florida, and he said there was a guy doing a presentation talking about racetracks, and he said, the husband is the one that picks where they want to go for the entertainment, and the wife is the one that decides if they go back. And I thought, man, that, that's good, and, to be able to have great racing sometimes just isn't enough. You got to have good concessions. You got to have clean bathrooms. You got to be able to give people, variety of stuff. I mean, me and you both grew up at Grundy where it was, 3 divisions, and then they added the 4 cylinders, and then it was 4 divisions. And now as we get ready to, go to our banquet this Saturday, we're crowning 10 champions, and which is crazy. We kind of, didn't set out to do it this way, but it's almost like, Rockford Speedway. What they did, they always had so many divisions, and you can't run them all every night, but you kind of, let's run this division every other week, and let's run this, once a month, and let's give our guys that, we looked at a situation a couple years ago to where our super late models ran 22 nights in a season. And nobody does that anymore. Local tracks in the Midwest, they run every other week, or they run specials. They do, what Slinger does. They run maybe 7-8 nights. The drive for 5 at the Dells. I mean, we were sure that was our main attraction, but it was just like we were kind of burning out the teams, I think. We'd have nights where you got 18, 19 cars, which is a nice field for today's economy. And then the next week we'd have 10, so it, we kind of split it up some. We gave all of our, main kind of bread and butter divisions more nights off, and kind of filled them in with some of the other divisions. We're kind of trying to get stuff to grow, trying to get some of these divisions to take off, so some of these, drivers can move up through the ranks, and one day, being a street stock, one day being a Mid-American car, one day being a super late model. So we're trying to do that. We're also trying to give a home to, some of the Rockford Speedway drivers that, kind of lost their track at the end of last season. And, kind of long-winded to answer your question, but you just, you gotta just keep trying things. We, took a really big swing with the putting the X in. That was something that a lot of people thought we did that just because Rockford closed. And, truth be told, that was on our agenda like way before Rockford even closed. I mean, that was something we had many discussions about. It's something that we wanted to do. We were kind of getting ready to pull the trigger on it. And then Rockford announced, they were closing. And I think that was just, any uncertainty that, Fair Board members had about, pulling, the plug or, on such a big project and doing it. I think it was like, well, I think now we're going to maybe be able to get some of that crowd and that entertainment dollars coming to us. And, the economy's crazy. We're blessed with, pretty good car counts and our, main weekly divisions. Super lates are not a cheap thing to do. Even the mid-am cars is, as affordable as they are compared to some other divisions, they're still, a little pricey to be out there. Even our street stocks, every division is pricey for the drivers that are in it. It's like if they had the money, they'd move up, and a lot of them kind of stay with what they're doing. And it's just a delicate kind of, puzzle. You got to kind of, do the right advertising, do the right different things. We did a $5 admission night, believe it or not, and that was something we had talked about doing as well. And we just wanted to try to get people in the place that maybe have never been there before. And, we did it, and it was just a huge home run. Financially, no, because you're only getting so much at the gate. But it brought in so many people, and we kind of felt at that point, from that point forward, our season just kept building and building and building, while other tracks seemed to struggle with some car counts and seemed to struggle with crowds. Again, I think the days of 25 late models at a weekly show are pretty much gone. Trying to get 20 mid-am cars to just a weekly show at a local track, a lot of those days are gone. I mean, you might get better car counts obviously for a traveling deal, but like I said, you just got to keep trying. You got to give fans new interesting stuff to do. You gotta, it's again, as well as I do, and I think that's maybe why we've gotten to become better friends over the years, is we can kind of bounce stuff off each other. We're kind of in the same boat with a lot of things. You think you're doing 99 things right, and then somebody comes up to you and they just suck the life right out of you. They burst the balloon, and it's just and I don't know how you are, but like me personally, it's that the one person that complains and is negative about stuff, that sticks with me more than the 99 people that praise you. Look at the crowd, look at this, look at, it's a great show, it was cool you did this, it was cool you did that. It's the one guy that's always complaining no matter what, that I drive home from there, an hour drive home after the races, and I think about that sometimes. And you can't, you listen, you take it all in. Obviously social media is a huge a huge kind of people, they just they say what they want and they throw freedom of speech at you, and I get that, but it's like, man, it's like you're not really helping the situation, or you complaining about everything or something. I had a conversation about something. I don't even know what we were talking about. It wasn't even about racing, but it was just like, you go on Google or you go on Yelp and you look at reviews, and you'll see a bad review from a guy and he'll be like, yeah, I've been here 10 other times and it was great, but tonight it was this, and the food was cold, and the service was slow, and I found a dead bug. And it's like, it's never just one thing. It's always 13 things that went wrong, and I'll never go back again. And I think to myself, well, where are your 10 good reviews from? Right. I mean, if you've been there 10 other times and you loved it and it was fabulous, and sadly, that's just kind of the world we live in. It's like people don't want to praise the good. They just want to kind of slam the bad. And we're not perfect. I'm not perfect. People, anybody in racing is not. I'm sure you'll say you're not either. You have your moments. We all do. And man, I always tell people, if you got a problem, we have a Facebook page, we have a website, there's email addresses, there's phone numbers. You can see me at the track, you can see Joe at the track, you can see our Fair Board president at the track, you can call it. There's a million ways that if you want to say something or get something across or just give feedback. But it's unfortunately there's always those little groups and pages out there on Facebook that kind of bash you, which really just sometimes makes it feel like they pull the rug out from underneath you, which kind of stinks. But you just got to keep on going, man. And I commend you for kind of taking a series that was down and out and kind of putting your spin on it. I know you've left it a better place from when you first got it, and like I said, you've had ups and downs, but you also had a pretty good competitive season. I mean, you got rookies battling for championships and pretty good car counts at most of your tracks. I mean, let's focus on the positive. How was your 2024 season on the track?
Wild. That's honestly the best way I can describe it. We have such a vast array of drivers. We have those upcoming drivers. We have those drivers that are excellent and dabbling in higher series, higher divisions, and then we have those guys that are coming back down. So at any given moment, Scotty Gardner Jr. I can't believe the season that he had this year. Not only did he win the title, he won Rookie of the Year, and sometimes. I wasn't sure what to expect with those guys because make no mistake about it, those Gardner boys and those girls are rowdy. So I wasn't sure how rowdy they were going to be, but for the most part, they were really respectful to Kevin because I knew that if there was a disagreement in tech, they weren't going to be happy about it. We had a DQ with them at Milwaukee. They handled it pretty graciously. Fantastic season by him. Right behind him was Vandermeer, 5-time champion. The guy's got a ton of ARCA experience, and you can never count him out. The surprise of the year for me was Connor. Connor is somebody that I've known for a while. He came from the Mini Cup cars, ran a Legends car for a while, and then I convinced him to buy my Mid-Am car when I was getting out, and he ran at Grundy for a few seasons, and he led the points for several weeks this year, and just put on a hell of a show everywhere that he went. I think him connecting with Gentile, they seem to have connected at a great level, and Dave has helped his program out. So, going into lacrosse, I really didn't know who was going to win the title because we get a lot of area sportsman cars up there, which for those of you that don't know, they're similar to a Mid-Am car. There's different suspension, different ride heights, and a variety of other things. And, they have to weigh a little bit differently than Mid-Am car, but they always come and compete with us, typically at Fest. So, there's some wild cards there because you get a 24 or 25 car field. So if you have one of the leaders have a bad race and finish 20th, 21st, 22nd, there's championship implications there. So it was cool to go into this year despite some of the adversity that I've had in the beginning of the year and see these guys just battle it out for a title. So I was pretty impressed with just how well the year went, even with some of my absence. Taking on a second job this year has just required me to travel a lot. And anybody that works 2 full-time jobs or a full-time job and a part-time job can probably sympathize with me. I'm not a spring chicken. I'm pushing 50, so it was a challenging year from a personal standpoint. But what I loved the most is when I physically couldn't do it anymore and just had to make decisions. The racers all stepped in. Nelms, Vandermeer, Connor, Russ, with Steve Blair driving his car. Rick Corso, Daniel Calhoun, gardeners. Everybody stepped in and said, what can we do to help you to keep this thing going, knowing what I had on my plate? And I don't know that there's a bigger sign of respect or something that made me feel as humble as that when they all stepped in and helped me get through the season. So I couldn't be more proud. And out of all of this, out of every, I make weird analogies, so here's one for you. Like a phoenix, you rise again out of the ashes. Out of the ashes this year came Cheryl Wren. Cheryl stepped in, started handling business, helping me with a lot of the day-to-day stuff. And I guess I could probably announce it. It's going to be announced next week, but she's going to co-own Mid-Am with me next year. So I've really got somebody in my corner that can help with the day-to-day and just keep this ship going forward. So and the drivers are certainly excited about it. Team's excited about it, and she really puts a positive spin on things. She's fair but firm, and same with Kevin. Kevin's going to be back next year. He stepped up to the plate, continued to do tech and everything in my absence this year. And again, that's a big thank you to him. Almost 30 years of friendship. He really bailed me out this year. So I've had to learn that I'm not 20 and I can't do everything anymore. So I've been a little better about delegating and just getting things handled this year. So on the track, great year, humbling year for me personally, and just really looking forward to next year. Steve, the only thing you can do when you don't have a great time is you step back and you look at yourself in the mirror and say, what are the missteps I've made over the past 2 seasons to get me to this point? What can I do to move forward, and just have an open and honest conversation with yourself and come back a better person, a better promoter, just a better advocate for racing. So I'm honestly really looking forward to next year. We're going to shorten our schedule, kind of like what you mentioned earlier. I think the days that a lot of racers would run Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, they're gone. A lot of racers want to do some events, but they also want to spend time with their family, make sure they're making birthdays, kind of that thing. So I heard loud and clear this year. I had 14 events on the schedule this year, and most of the folks said that was too many. So we're going to take it back down to kind of that 10 range and regroup, reload, and come back for next year. We've gotten quite a few commitments for new drivers and returning drivers. So we've got a banquet coming up. I think Cheryl's working on that for February. By the way, everybody is welcome to come to that. It's kind of open-ended, and we're doing our town hall meeting next week where I guess I'll officially announce Cheryl. But you know Cheryl well. She does so much for Grundy. She does so much for racing. I don't know a cooler chick in the pits that does more for racing than her, quite honestly. And I'm absolutely blessed to have her.
Yeah, no, huge asset. We're, we'll let you power her, but you definitely can't take her away from us. She's so instrumental and so much, just a positive just to have her there, before she decided, hey, let's do a kids night, let's do a back to school night, let's do this, let's do that. But like you said, there's probably not a cooler girl at the track that, wants to just hop in and help and do this. And she loves to race. She loves to help. At the end of the year, she had kind of, put the car away for a while and decided, the car's still in one piece. I don't got to, rebuild anything. I don't got to throw a new body on it. Let's just put it away for these last couple of races, and then I can kind of evaluate what I want to do next year. And she just went gung-ho, like with, like I've always done, lap sponsors for the Bentonhausen. That was a tradition, going back to, the early 2000s at Eliana, all the way up until when they closed it at 2015. We brought the event over to Grundy, and, when I did that, I told, the Carter family, we want to do the exact same, this is going to be the format. This is going to be this. This is going to be this. We're going to do lap sponsors. And we did it. And, if I came up with a couple grand, I was just thrilled to be able to pass that money on to the drivers. And Cheryl said, you know what, I saw what they did at Slinger, and I saw the amount of money they did for the Slinger Nationals, and if it's okay with you, I want to try to do that for the Bentonhausen. And man, it's a lot of work doing that. It's easy to get the people to commit to it. It's another thing to try to get them to all pay before the event, and you're tracking people down and you're meeting them and they're sending you money. They're sending money with friends. You're meeting them in Walgreens parking lot to get cash from them to do all that. But man, she came up with like $10,000 and lap money for the late model race, for the mid-am race. And like I said, I did my normal little bit. She pretty much did bulk of the heavy lifting with that. And then we get to the end of the year, and I'm like, hey, you as well, and Kevin really helped out and pitched in a lot at the Bahama Brackets. But I asked Cheryl, do you want to help? And she's like, yeah, whatever you need. And it's cool when people want to do stuff like that, just because, just to be able to help and do stuff like that. Tim, let me take a quick commercial break here, and when we come back, we'll continue talking about the Mid-Am Racing Series with Tim Zee.
Orland Precision Machine in Frankfort, Illinois is a family-owned full-range CNC machine shop with engineering, machining, and welding capabilities. We are 100% committed to supplying high-quality, competitively priced products to our customers. Whether you're in need of one part or 1,000, customer service and satisfaction are our number one priorities. We also pride ourselves on our on-time delivery service and offer local delivery. Industries currently serving include crane and heavy equipment, food processing, steel mill, railroad elevator, and water valve systems. For more information, check out our website at orlandprecisionmachine.com.
At the SRC Pro Bowler Shop, we carry all major brands of bowling balls, bags, and accessories, including shoes, cleaners, and tapes. We offer professional ball fitting and custom drilling. We can plug the ball, refinish, and re-drill. We have the equipment to rejuvenate your ball and bring it back to life. SRC is the one-place stop to shop for any of your bowling needs. Give us a call at 708-407-8584 or find us on Facebook under SRC Pro Bowler Shop.
You're listening to Short Track News Radio. If you're enjoying the show, please consider advertising your business with us. Or fans can make a donation right through the website to help keep things running. For more information, check out shorttracknews.com. And now, back to the show.
Well, back here on Short Track News Radio with Steve Bechtel, Tim Zee, talking everything racing. As the post said there, if anybody's interested in maybe coming on board advertising with us, let us know. We're really kind of amped up about being able to do a weekly show here and try to get some shows in the hopper for weeks when we don't have the time to put shows together. But like I said, between local racing and talking some history and getting some guests on and stuff like that, we'd like to be able to take everybody through the winter and like I said, just give somebody a place to be able to talk some racing memories or talk about some stuff that's upcoming for the future. There's always something going on in racing. And boy, Tim, talking about something going on in racing, what about NASCAR, man? Do they it's been going on as long as I can remember, but man, it always seems like they never can get out of their own way sometimes.
Boy, do I have an opinion on this. You have to remember this. 20, 25 years ago, NASCAR drivers would show up at local tracks. If you want a NASCAR driver to show up, you got to have a big checkbook. I don't feel like that there is love either way. NASCAR doesn't love short tracks, and short track is beginning to not love NASCAR. It's certainly looking like a money-driven sport, kind of heading the way of F1. I'm really interested to see what's going to happen with Front Row 23XL lawsuit. I can speak from personal experience. Once you litigate, nobody wins. Nobody's going to win out of this. And look at the split with CART and IRL, X amount of years ago. It is interesting to me. I think the judge said that they're gonna have a decision on this injunction on Friday. I think that's what I heard. It costs NASCAR virtually nothing to go in and fight this a little bit. They're gonna test the waters with the judge and just kind of see how the judge feels about this. Is he going to grant this or is he not? Well, if he grants this, I think NASCAR might be a little more receptive to settling or figuring something out. Just personal experience, looking at some of the business models with some teams I'm involved with, Cup Series racing does not make any sense right now. I don't think it's any secret that NASCAR has been heavy-handed. I don't want to be accusational and call it a monopoly, but sometimes you have to call a spade a spade. They mandate all the parts and pieces. Everything is identical. I'm sure there's agreements in place where NASCAR is compensated back for all of that loyalty. They own 12 or 13 tracks, and I don't know what kind of rev share they have for TV or anything like that, but I was reading an article the other day. Actually, it was Jeff Gordon. His statement was something to the effect that Hendrick Motorsports hasn't made a profit in 10 years, and they don't have a truck rental agency or a lot of dealerships like a Penske or something like that to back them. So the only way that they remain profitable is through sponsorship. And I don't know about you, sponsorships for drivers is tough, sponsorships for series, tracks is tough, and I remember the days when you could look at Harry Gant, Davey Allison, Jeff Gordon, you knew what car they were driving every week. Those days seem to be long gone. It seems like teams are scrambling for 1 or 2 race deals. You never know who's in what car because there's 27 different paint schemes because all of this is a challenge economically. So I'm interested and almost rooting to see if NASCAR has to open the books. I would be curious to see what the profit margins are, what the France family makes, and make no mistake about it, if the judge starts to decide that way and declares them a monopoly, there's a multitude of things that could happen. They could make NASCAR sell off their tracks. Getting into a monopoly position or a monopoly argument doesn't end well for anybody. So I'm hoping that these teams can figure out a way with the sport to keep the revenue share a little more balanced so that teams can make some money. And it's disappointing to see what's happened with the charters. I think that the big teams continue to get bigger and not in a good way. You can come in as an open team and give it a shot, but $40, $50 million for a charter, it's become, again, it goes back to my original point where this is becoming a sport where it's strictly money driven and the best drivers aren't in the best cars. You look at Xfinity series and work your way down. So Xfinity, trucks, ARCA. A good majority of those drivers are in there because of what they bring to the table financially outside of their talent. And that is what sucks, absolutely sucks to watch. I don't want to pick on the TV star, but how the hell does a TV star get himself in a truck ride with not really a whole lot of other racing experience other than the Long Beach 4-cylinder division? Well, the answer is a checkbook. But I can certainly think of a lot of guys in Wisconsin, Indiana, Illinois that bust their ass day in and day out, perfected their craft, and have no shot at ever getting in a ride like that because of a checkbook. It's inevitable. It's just how the world works now. I get it. I'm probably barking up the wrong tree, but I'll die on that sword. I just wish that people who deserve to race based on their talent had more opportunities. I think the highlight for me this year was watching Bubba Pollard get that opportunity that he had. And, I don't know if you listen to his podcast or not. That family's not made of money. They go and they're working folks, and they make the money races that they can. So those are always going to be the guys that I cheer for. Even guys within my series, RJ Tackman has made a couple of attempts at ARCA. Vandermeer has some of his own equipment. A lot of people are curious as to, well, what does it take to get into something like that? Do you want to go down to Daytona and race? Plan to spend upwards over $100,000 for a really good quality car. There are teams out there that will do it for less, and that's a business decision that they have to make. What is the best business proposition for them? But those top 3 or 4 cars are not cheap propositions, and that's just at ARCA. It only goes upward from there. And I know at less desirable tracks, Daytona is obviously the cream of the crop, so it's going to command a premium. I get it. But I don't think that $20,000 or $25,000 to the average racer for one race for a shot at a decent car is all that great of a deal either. So again, probably just barking up the wrong tree here. I always admire the folks that go out there and do it on almost nothing. I look at Brad Smith, who's been doing it for years. Even Alex Clubb, not nearly as fun as some of the other teams, but he's doing what he loves. I just wish more people that had talent, had opportunities to run in good equipment. Yeah. What is your take on this? Am I crazy here?
No, I mean it's a broken system. It goes all the way down, just like you said. I mean, there's 4 or 5 drivers in ARCA that are probably better than half of the truck teams, but they're in ARCA because that's what they can do, and it's the same in the trucks. There's 10 guys in trucks that I'd love to see in Xfinity instead of the same old people that have been in that series for 15 years that really don't get stuff done, and it trickles up to Cup with some of those names in the bottom. There's probably about 20 legitimate guys in Cup that could win races and stuff like that. But like I said, they kind of rehash the same people because they either got the experience or they can get a little bit of money, their name recognition or something, something along those lines. And the charter system understood what they were trying to do when they first did it, but now they're kind of priced out of. It's one thing to have a charter to where you could get something and you could sell it when you're done. Like you can actually get some money out of it if you said, hey, I've done this for 20 years. I want to get out. I want to be able to sell more than just my, outdated equipment and my, shop that's probably too small. So I like that fact, but, the fact that they kind of, and again, maybe I'm wrong, but it's like the drop off on money. It's like they only got 36 charters. And so if you did want to try to take this on your own without a charter and just try to make it, it's like the deck is stacked so far against you with the money being so, I mean, you could win Daytona 500 and the guy that finishes last could make more money than you with the way the charter system is. And for open teams, and it's like, to me, that's just limiting the growth of trying to, it's like they're saying we want 36 teams, a couple stragglers, and that's all we want. That's the way it kind of looks. Also read something today where they said the charter teams they get almost half of the TV revenue. So, I mean, less than 50% go to 36 charters, which means NASCAR and the tracks get 50% plus, which seems, I think anybody that follows the sport knows that NASCAR does not want to have to open the books, and that's going to really cause some concern and some headaches for NASCAR. So I think they're doing what they can to try to win, and I think if it comes push to shove, they'll deal with it, because the last thing that they want to do is open those books and kind of almost prove that it's a monopoly, see how it turns out. It's going to be interesting to kind of see how this goes with the the ruling this weekend, and then with the a champion being crowned, one of them being Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin's team. How is that going to look if they win the championship and all that? So that'll be interesting to follow. We have a lot to follow going forward. I know we just kind of threw this together. We've kind of joked about it the last 2-3 months, and finally decided, we just need to do one of these episodes. And if we do one, then it'll lead to 2 and 3. But a lot of different fun stuff. I think coming up here. You want to talk some NASCAR. You want to talk some history. I mean, what do you see in the next couple of months talking about here? Obviously, a lot to talk about Grundy, talk about the Mid-Am series. I'll talk about anything. There's good and bad in everything with Grundy, the positive side of things, the negative with some of the things you see. I know you've had your ups and downs, and you said you're fine talking about everything, but like I said, I can talk about what happened at Grundy a month ago, and I could talk about the Arco Challenge series from when I was a kid, and talk about my memories with that, or I can talk about NASCAR and help fix all of their problems, like everybody, every race fan thinks that they can do. But what are you looking forward to? Maybe what do you envision here, Tim, with us doing this? I know again we're just laying out the outline, but what do you maybe want to try to accomplish with this?
I would have a little fun with this. So I'd be interested to see what the listeners want to discuss or have us discuss. I would love to give fans, teams, anybody that this is applicable, let's try that a third time, and give them a little insight. I feel like a lot of the times they think that me or you or DeBello are behind an iron curtain, like pulling the strings. I would love to give fans the insight to see just how disorganized all of this is, and we're just trying to make it work in one night. It'd be cool to do something like that, and just I'd be interested to see what everybody else wants to discuss. I'll talk anything racing. I'll talk F1. I'll talk WRC. I love racing. Love racing. Love everything about it. So, racing-wise, I'm open to anything. I still think one night we need to do a mean tweets. I've got a whole list of mean tweets that I look at and laugh at of the shit people have said about me over the years, and I just laugh hysterically at it now because some of it's aged well and some of it hasn't. It's a good time. So, yeah. We're
open to everything. ShortTrackNews.com. The old. Man, I've had that domain name for almost 24 years now, and just kind of like a buffer, kind of like for the show, kind of let you know where you can see the show at. And to be honest, I probably haven't even looked at that page in a year, so might have to do some updating, let people know what we're doing. We still have the Short Track News Radio Facebook page if you want to check that out. I mean, obviously we might be rebranding some of this stuff, maybe some new intros, and again, if anybody wants to come on board as an advertiser, get some new commercials in here, figure out a format that we want to do. But yeah, love being, kind of fan oriented to where we can get people's, input and questions. Some of our, favorite shows over the years were people, coming in and doing a Q&A episode where people would send in questions, and I definitely want to open curious to see what some of the questions would be, but definitely want to open up questions. Love to have some guests on, love to have some local some drivers on, and one thing that I've learned over the years is, especially with social media, is, you can reach out to a lot of people. And, 10 years ago, you were just interviewing, your local track champion or your, this and that. But, now with social media, you can reach out to a guy that, is, a former NASCAR driver, or, I've had, conversations back and forth with Mark Martin. I've had conversations with Joe Ruttman on social media, and again, that doesn't mean these guys are going to want to do a podcast, but there's I have a friend, Gary Onsen, who over the last few years, he said one of the coolest things I've done in racing is I've become friends with Gary Ballou. And if you know racing, cool. Yeah, you know the name Gary Ballou, and he sees them. I mean, and it's not just like, hey, how you doing? They wave to each other at the Snowball Derby. I mean, they talk on the phone. They go out to breakfast. They stay at the same hotel. They they help work his merchandise trailer and stuff like that. And it's like, man, for somebody like me that grew up, he was one of the best short track drivers. Watching the old video of the Batmobile, I think from 1980 when he just dominated with that modified car, and everybody knows the history of his off-track stuff. But man, to be able to maybe get somebody like that on the show, or former ARCO driver or champion and stuff, I'm just I'm looking forward to all that stuff. So want to make it a fan driven show. It might not be necessarily me and Tim every week. I know Tony Baranek has chimed in, and he wants to do some Raceway Park stuff, and again, just talking old history about stuff, and who knows, maybe we just start cranking these episodes out maybe more than once a week. I know that's probably getting way ahead of ourselves, but no, just looking for something fun to do. So again, we're going to start spreading the word. Go ahead.
I'm going to put you on the spot. Off the top of your head, who are your top 3 picks to bring on as an interview? Whether they say yes or no, just who would be your top 3 picks to interview?
Man, probably a huge long shot, but I've actually he doesn't follow many people on Twitter. He doesn't follow many people, and he follows me. I've interacted with him, tweets before. At first, he would like retweet some of my stuff, and I was like, oh my god, he it's like you kind of get like a little fan crush on him, and we've talked through messages on Twitter. Well, now we got to call it X. But Mark Martin would probably be one of my, I'd love to talk to him and just, hey, if you can give us 15 minutes, I'd love. And for as much as he's done in racing, I'm not even all that concerned about his Cup career. He came out with a book. This was quite a while ago, and it documented everything up until maybe say about 2010. So it's an older book, and it's like I've read the early, once he hits like, Winston Cup, and then he kind of failed and went back to the short tracks, and then he came back again. It's like I've read that part of the book probably 10 times. I've read the whole book once, but it's like once you get to the NASCAR stuff where he kind of made it, I for whatever reason, not really interested too much in that. I grew up, him in Stock Car Racing Magazine, him in Midwest Racing News. Some people had, the Farrah Fawcett poster on their wall, or the rock group Kiss, their when I was a kid, I had the centerfolds out of Stock Car Racing Magazine, and one of them was Mark Martin. So that would be one. I don't know, man. You put me on the spot. Gary Ballou obviously would just be fascinating. Again, I'm not necessarily like wanting to talk that much about his off-track stuff. I mean, that stuff's out there. You can read about it. You can see podcasts about it and stuff like that. I'm just more or less into the short track stuff of it. So he would probably be 2. And man, I don't. we're down to about a minute left, so I'd have to. I'd have to really put some thought into that. If you can give me 3 of yours in less than a minute, I'll let you go now.
I like interesting stories. I like weird stories. I like controversial stories. Right off the bat, Steve Seligman. The guy has got a storied past, storied history, still racing and still doing his thing. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah.
The second one that might come as a surprise is my tech guy. Somebody that hasn't had a successful career, but he fanboys. He knows everybody. He has stories about everybody, and it would be cool to hear his perspective on it.
Sure.
And then maybe Larry Schuler. I could sit and talk with Larry for hours. That's just right off the top of my head. I'm sure there's
I can't go wrong too with Larry Schuler. He's actually going to be at the banquet this weekend, so it's kind of cool that he's going to be there. He doesn't go to them every year, and he's going to be there. Well, fans, hey, we're just about out of time here. Season 10, I believe, for us, but our first episode in the books. We're going to have a lot more coming up, and hope to put another episode out next week. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see everybody again next week.
Thank you for listening to Short Track News Radio. We'd like to thank our sponsors, our guests, and most importantly, all you racing fans out there that tune in every week. Keep supporting those local racetracks, and we'll see you again next time